It's me, Linda, and my lovely friend Millie, sharing wit and wisdom over a cup of whatever we're drinking today. And in this weekly show, we just pick random subjects from this little bowl here. We got a whole slew of them in here. So they're spiritual, non-spiritual, doesn't really matter. The idea and the intention of our show is to bridge that gap between those who are stepping into their conscious awareness and those veterans that have been doing the work for a long, long time. So let's get at it, shall we? How are you?
I'm good. I hope that, like I told you, the noise in the background, they're demolishing the house next
Can't
door.
hear a thing.
You can't
Can't
hear it? Okay.
hear a thing.
Good, good. This is good. Yeah, I'm doing great.
Breathe through it. All right. So here, you want to pick? All right. And you picked. Oh, this is a long one. Different practices. Yoga, Reiki, breath work, etc., etc., etc. I will let you start, my dear. Let's talk about
Meditate.
those different
These are
practices.
the ones that work for me. The ones that work for me.
Well, what works for you? What's the purpose? Why did you get into it? Why do people get into it? Let's just talk about anything and everything that comes up around that.
Okay. What works for me is meditation, and not guided meditation. I can't hear another person guide me into meditation because I can't relax. I don't use anything. Now, if my mind is too busy, I'll use a little bit of soft music. Walking. I have to walk every day. If I don't walk every day, I feel like I'm not grounded. And Reiki is, I mean, I'm a Reiki master. I do send a lot of Reiki. It's very rare that I get to work on a person anymore live. And I don't know, breath work.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what got you into Reiki because I got into it in the early 2000s. And I wasn't even stepping into my full conscious self at that time. I liked playing in the different modalities.
Did you do it all in one?
I did Reiki 1 and 2. I never went past that. And I would
But
just
did you do
how
them
I go.
together?
I,
I mean,
I,
did you do them the same weekend? Did you do
no,
them
I did
both?
one weekend of one and one weekend
Okay.
of another.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I really never put it to practice except on my animals and my kids.
That's mostly what I do. I mean, except when I'm sending someone in the hospital, someone is sick. I got into it because I was living up in North Carolina and my friend and I had bought the retreat, a motel retreat center. And someone introduced me to this woman who's still one of the most fabulous people I know. And she came over and with another person, another client of hers. And the four of us, because then my friend and my partner in the business, we did it together. Wow. I don't know. I know that there are people that actually do Reiki 1 and 2 in the same weekend and 3.
Wow. Yeah.
I had to spend 6 months from the first one to the second one, and then from the second one to the third one, another 6 months, because I'm so sensitive that it just brought up all of this horrible stuff up. And I don't know how I had the bravery to go back and do number 2 after I experienced, and my friend, nothing. She felt nothing. And I'm thinking, there must be something wrong with me. It brought up sexual abuse that was profound. It brought up oh man, it brought up a lot of things. And the second one was a little bit more gentle, but by the time I got to the third one, I was okay. I think all the gut came out. And I do use a lot of my 7-year-old calls it angel healing, because he says he could see the light coming from my hand, especially in the dark. I I just move wherever the hands are called to, like I don't remember much of the symbols. It's been too long. It was back in 2011. Yeah. So that's how I got into Reiki. What about you? What did you feel when
I
you
don't even remember, I'm thinking back now, how did I even discover that? I believe we're guided to different things for different reasons. Because I was living in Michigan at the time and I was in Grand Rapids, and this teacher was down in Saugatuck, which was a good hour and a half away. So I drove down there for the first one, and then I liked it enough and thought it was interesting enough that I wanted to do the second one. So I went back a couple months later and did that. But I can't even remember how I was guided to it. And there was, what was going on in my life at the time. It's kind of, I look back now and I go, it's kind of weird that I would even have done that because I was still working in the television business and very much, being a director of a creative department and all that stuff. So
Like super 3D.
yeah, yeah. And then I went and did this. And my ex at the time was not into anything woo woo. Not that my husband now is into it, but he is very open. Um, yeah, and I just said, I'm going to go do this and went and did it and didn't even have a talk about it. And my kids thought it was fun to see me do it on the dogs.
Mhm.
But, and I've said this so many times, people that have watched me before probably have heard this and they're like, yeah, we've heard that, shut up. But I feel like we pick up these different practices throughout our life. And then now we're getting to this point where it's like, I'm going to pull a little bit from this, I'm going to pull a little bit from this, and I'm going to mix it up in this little sauce here, and I'm going to do my thing. That it's not really the formal practice that it was. Now, true Reiki practitioners are probably going to hate that I'm saying that, but I do feel like I learned something on the energetic level from that.
Mhm.
And then I pull from that for other things that I do. What do you
I
do?
agree. I agree. That's about the same thing. Like, I also know I don't know where the information comes from because people, where does that information come? I don't know. I wish I knew where the information, when I get information about somebody, give you an example. I went to my son's wedding at Annapolis, and the night of the wedding, my kids got me an Uber after I knew that they were going to get their own Uber so I can go back to the hotel. And I got this young man, um, sweet young man. And I had this incredible conversation. And as I'm talking to him for the 15-minute ride, some information came through. And he was like, where is that coming from? And I get that question a lot. And I know you do too. Like, where is that coming from? I feel that it's because of the years and the time and the energy that I have put into not trying to figure out where the energy comes from. The energy actually, the information and the energy comes through, whether it's Reiki or doing the tarot or doing just sitting with somebody. I think I don't think 'cause it's not coming from thought. I feel that when you step aside and you actually allow without labeling it or I do this, I do that. I mean, I don't know how to say what you do or what I do. You know what I mean? It's not black and white. Like, okay, you're a photographer. We know you have a camera and you go and you take pictures. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
somebody who's an engineer or somebody who's a writer. But when you were I mean, that's why I call myself a metaphysical facilitator because anything that's like metaphysical, I'm there. I mean, I might not know what it is that I'm pulling from. And I feel that people get stuck in like, oh, I'm going to learn about crystals and I'm going to be an expert on this. And then I'm going to learn about oils and I'm going to be an expert on that. Or I'm going to learn the cards. And that is great. It's good to have some knowledge in everything. Put your hands in as many things as you want, but don't get so ultra focused and having to label it because it's all coming from source. It doesn't matter what the tool is, whether it's meditation or yoga or exercise or running or it's, I feel that it's just the moment that you intentionally open up to connect with the divine, whatever tool you may use, whatever wand you want to carry with you, it's what actually allows you to open up the antennas and the information comes through. So yeah, people ask me all the time, do you yoga? No, I actually don't like yoga very much because it brings up it's very rare that I do yoga and I don't come out either crying or with severe anger issues. I guess,
Well,
yeah,
you're
I have
you're
to,
doing somatic yoga then, huh?
It doesn't
So
matter
every
what
time.
yoga I do. It seems that it just brings up everything that I should maybe want to come out, but I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's not my cup of tea.
Well, we can't constantly have things coming out and up, or we would be wrecks and never operate in society.
Yeah. I mean, don't you feel that when you go for a walk and you really tune in? Don't you feel that those things come up anyways? I mean, why do I need to
Yeah.
try and touch my toes with my head? You know, to be able to get that, I can do that on my own by sitting down comfortably and, not having to do any of
Not
that.
have to work so hard. And we talk about these practices and they're really beautiful and they can be absolutely life-changing, but you know what?
Yes.
You brought up my photography job and so much comes out of that.
Mhm.
So many deep and meaningful connections. We don't have to necessarily have a metaphysical type practice to be practicing on other people. Like I like to believe that when I have somebody show up in front of me for a headshot and they're very, first of all, if I had $1 for every time somebody said, I don't like having my picture taken, I would be like not working anymore. And to be able to work with them and just have them feel relaxed, you start to see them kind of relax and melt into the chair, and then they forget that they're having their picture taken, and then they start acting like their normal, beautiful, authentic self. And that's, to me, that's a practice, to work with somebody on just breaking through those barriers and
Oh my
relaxing.
God, woman, you just made me cry.
Oh, it's, honey,
Because I
it's
saw what you did with me and just quickly within a few minutes take my picture and put me at ease. Um, I don't like having my pictures taken. And so you have this ability of just opening somebody up and within minutes you're done. And it's more mental. And then all of a sudden you shift the energy, and that's a gift in itself. And you also see the person, you know exactly what you need because you see them as a whole, as, the spiritual part of them. So thank you for what you do.
But my point being, the guy at the checkout could do the same thing. You could be having the shittiest day. And if the guy at the checkout can pick up on that and then somehow transmute that for you or help assist you in transmuting that for you, or I see you do this all the time when we're out in public and we go somewhere and you will just chat with anybody about anything. And the levity that you bring, and I see the pride coming out in people and they start to remember. It's like they start to remember who they really are.
Hmm.
And they're like, look at her. She recognizes me. She sees me for who I am. I mean, that is not a practice, but that's a practice. You know what I'm saying?
I do. So I ordered all these incredibly funny shirts that I walk on the beach with. And I do it purposely because people like to read. You know, so I have one that says I am enough. And I forgot I was wearing it one day. Did I tell you this story? I forgot I was
No.
wearing it one day. This is about a month ago. And it's a Saturday and I'm walking the beach. I got dressed with it like in the dark. It's a black shirt. I didn't even look to see what was in front of it. And I had a few people do what I do to them, always give compliments. And some woman said to me, the first one said to me, "You are so worthy. I'm so glad you're here." And I was like, "Oh my God, you are too." I keep walking. And these two young guys, they're looking at me and they're smiling. And then they take off and then they come back. And as they're coming back, the guy says to me, "You are so worthy. You are more than enough." And I'm like, "Oh my God, the people on this beach are just rocking it today.
Huh?
They're just, oh my God." And then a little girl, about 10 or 11, "Hey, ma'am, I like your shirt. I am enough too." And I looked down. This is like an hour later. I went, "Oh my God, all those people were." So then it dawned on me, I'm going to get shirts that have the funniest. Like I have one that says "Be kind." And so I go around handing out compliments like I normally do. And then they'll say something and then they go, perfect shirt. And I said, that's all you have to do is just be kind. And so I have another one that says a few other things. I'm like, they're just funny. They're funny sayings, but they make you, they stop you. They stop the person for a minute and it either brings a smile or what the hell's wrong with her? You know, kind of question to her head. I have all of them. I have bought a whole bunch of them and it's just, they're fun. And it's just a conversational piece, you know, because most people, if you show them something, if you show them anything that's going to bring a smile to them, it opens them up and you could actually see in so many people their heart at that very moment just go,
Like the Grinch.
yes, exactly. We're so caught up in living in our little world that,
Yeah.
you know, do you remember that movie with Ryan Reynolds that he is in a game? It was a few
Yes.
years ago. What was it called? Free. You remember what movie I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That he
Yeah.
actually is in a game and then
Yeah.
he
He was a
realized,
non-primary character and he became a
yes, and he
primary
became the
character.
primary character. And that's how I see now after seeing that movie. It kind of like opened me up. Like we have all these people always in the background of our lives or walking by or in a car next to us at a light. And they're not important because we really don't know them. And we're not important because they don't know us. But the moment that you share a smile or a hello, all of a sudden, you're now a primary player in their lives, even if it's just for 2 seconds. So now that I watched that movie, whenever I saw it a few years ago, I was like, oh, I'm gonna level this sucker up. I'm just going to make it even more. I don't want to be just, you know, a little player in the background. No, 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 a difference. So maybe that's my form of like my biggest form of connecting to source. Like it's not Reiki, it's not telling you that your grandfather is behind you. It's not telling, it's actually just making people laugh and actually letting them know that they're beautiful or that they, whatever. I think that that's the biggest connection. If we can do a job, any job, I feel that that's the most important job we can do for humanity. If every single person was kind to another, you know what? Can you imagine what the world would look like?
It's the practice of kindness.
There you go. That's the practice of
And you
kindness.
don't have to take a class. You just practice it everywhere you go.
Well, you know, people say they're kind, and then when they somebody doesn't say thank you after holding the door, the kindness goes out the window. And I
Well,
tell
you can't
people,
expect.
right, exactly. You can't expect, and that's like with everything. If you
Yeah,
sit with me or with you and you're giving them a session, an intuitive session, and they're not hearing what they want to hear, can't make everybody happy. I mean,
right.
we could only say as much as your higher self is allowing for you to hear, and what you do with that information is all on you and how you process it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's, one of the biggies too is you can't go into any of this with any expectations or you're going to end up disappointed. You just have to trust the process and allow.
You know, you have butterflies around you today.
No,
Yeah, all sorts of little butterflies all around you.
that's so funny that you said that because I just went to get my hair done this morning and I brought my friend who cuts my hair a couple milkweed plants so she can have butterflies at her house.
Well, they're all around you.
Well, maybe they appreciated that.
Oh, I'm sure they did. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Well, and as I left, a monarch comes flying by and I'm like, oh, they're already here. They were waiting.
That's how it works.
Yeah. Well, that's my practice too. I practice raising butterflies,
I love that so
trying to get
much.
back to, you know, it's hard. It's hard for the insects. It's hard for us. It's hard for everybody. So the more kindness we can practice on all levels, buying butterfly plants and
Or
being
anything,
kind.
anything of
And
the kind.
so is there a practice, some sort of spiritual practice out there that you've thought about that? Gosh, that would be interesting. I'd like to learn more about that. Or are you kind of past
Yeah,
feeling
I
that
do.
need?
I want to jump off a plane. I want to jump out of a plane. I feel that that would be the ultimate like spiritual uh freedom to actually see the world from that view. I mean, you see a plane, you can see things from a plane, but that's it. That would be it. That would be the ultimate um practice to, and I know that sounds silly, but it's just
No.
something that it
Mm-mm.
feels like that would be the one thing that I actually do want to do before I go to another incarnation. Let's say I don't have a bucket list, but that would be definitely it. Um, I don't know what other practices do you want to learn or do or
Well, I would love to jump out of a plane. My dad was
I
a
could do better.
paratrooper in World War II. And I'm like, you know, if he could muster up the guts to do that, I should be able to jump out of a plane too. And I was going to do it for my 60th. And I'm like, I can't. It comes and I have the guts to do it for like this long. And then all of a sudden it passes. And I'm like, yeah, I don't need to do that.
I
I
can
would
see that.
like to, but I have a tremendous fear. And it would be great for me to overcome that fear. But I don't know.
As many times as I have died and come back, they don't want me in the other
Well,
side.
yeah,
I have no
maybe I need to have
problem,
an MTE first and then I'll just be, oh, no problem. I'll go do that.
I have no problem doing that. How about anything new modalities that you feel that you want to learn?
I really, I, I like just creating my own.
Mhm.
That's more fun to me. And I think we've stepped into a place where we can all do that now.
But what about for a person who is watching this or doesn't have an idea of what they could possibly do? What would be something? I mean, I would send them to yoga. If you can do that, you can definitely do just about anything. No, I mean, I don't know, but I would think like I remember telling somebody who could not sit through meditation. I said, well, then go find some guided meditations on Spotify or YouTube.
Yeah.
And that helped her. And then I said, and then try and find a meditation class. A live meditation class is very different than one where you're on the
Yes, it
other
is.
side of the computer. And then from there, see what calls to you. What happens is when people start awakening their senses or their abilities, everything they want to try everything all at once, or
Yeah. Well, and then I feel that becomes overwhelming. One thing that's been popping into my awareness quite a bit, and I don't know, I'm not ready to step into that yet, but it's going to sit right up front in the realm of possibility for me is becoming a death doula. I think there would be nothing more honorable and sacred than walking somebody down that journey. I it would be such an
yeah.
honor to do that and a privilege. And I think it would be fascinating
I
to do.
looked into that like about 5 years ago. I was going to do it and then I didn't get the chance because of work and my kids. And I think it's beautiful. I mean, I used to be a guardian rep, as you know, for elderly clients. And when I would see them at their last, if they were in that ICU or you knew that they were leaving,
Mm,
learned so much about the journey right at the end. It was one of the most precious gifts that anybody could ever given me is being there right when they're ready to go. Whether I was in the room when they left from this world or a day before or hours before, there's this sense of like openness and vulnerability for the first time in their entire life where they actually are not afraid anymore and they can just let go. You would be great at that, Linda.
I think and as I jokingly say, we live in God's waiting room here in Florida. So, there would
Yes.
be a lot of people to assist. I don't know. It's it'll come when it's meant to come.
Mhm.
Something will present itself and it'll happen. And, I don't feel like I need to force it right now. But that's one that I would be interested in learning more about. What about you?
Mhm. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm at a place where I'm just allowing right now, and anything that comes my way just feels like magic. It is showing up in ways that you know, the last few months, it just feels like I'm for the first time actually honoring me, you know,
Mhm.
like I didn't know I could do that. I mean,
Long deserved.
yeah, but honoring my space here, my presence here, and not with anybody else, just with me, and knowing that um we're given the gift of life every single morning or every single day. I don't know. Maybe if you ask me in a few months, but right now I'm just kind of like on this really soft landing, and I don't have any kind of goals or ambition to learn anything new or no, that's not true. I take all that back because I'm working on a project, and that is huge for me. And I feel that that specific project, that show, that connection of food and people and stories, yeah, I forgot all about that, but
Are
that
you
would
ready to
be,
share a little bit about that?
I don't think this is the right show to do that, do
Okay.
you?
Okay. Well, we'll
We
just
were talking about modalities.
we'll just bait people along for a little. No. Yeah, well, you know what? And what occurred to me as you were saying that is I don't think we really ever set out to really do these things as much as they present themselves in our field. And then they either
Yes.
stick or we move on to something else. And I think that's how, when it naturally happens in the flow like that, that's when you know it's really meant for you. Don't you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like I told you, I was going to study, I was going to the Art Institute. I was accepted to the Art Institute in Paris when I was 17, and I didn't go because my mother wouldn't
Yeah, the
let me go.
stories you have are just like deep.
No, but after that, then I went to med school, pre-med. And I was going to study to be a pediatric cardiologist. And then the first
You're a Renaissance woman.
cadaver that I had to cut open, I was like, oh no, I'm not doing that. And then I don't even know how it didn't dawn on me that I'll be cutting up little children. You know what I mean? Like, what the heck? And then I went into like the strangest field, which was, I got a job, and like you said, I just followed the crumbs, and it was for power transmission parts. And I went to power transmission school and the training for the company that I was working for. And then I started a company with my second husband, and you know
Well, the transmission is the heart of any vehicle.
and any machinery, let's just be clear,
Yeah, yeah.
without the
So
parts or without the motors, you
you
can't
just
have
went
a
from
factory.
humans to machines.
Exactly. But it was like, even to this day, I find it interesting that I was 20, 21, and to this day, at least twice a month, i will I will dream of putting huge orders of parts, and I remember the part numbers, and I know all the parts, and it's, yeah. And to full cycle back here in Miami, it's one of those things where I go, wow, like, what's meant for you, it's always going to find you one way or another. And it's not anything metaphysical. It's not woo-woo at all. It's very concrete. It's very 3D. And yet, if you would have asked me as a child that I was going to be walking into factories and telling you that needs the sprocket, that needs a bearing, that needs a DC motor with an AC motor and a reducer, I would have said, what the heck are you talking about? It wasn't something that, and there weren't that many women when I was starting. It was a man's market. And how do you go from that to, working with as a guardian rep or owning a motel retreat center or, it's like we do a million things and we don't realize. I think that sometimes there are people that come into this world and said, as they're coming in, like, I want it all. I want to experience it from here over there. And they get it all within 80 or 90 years, and then you're done. And I think that was me. Yo, give it to me now. I don't want to have to come back. Just pour it all in one, and let's get going. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know that you've missed anything. You've pretty much touched on everything within your life so far.
I
Maybe,
don't know. I
you
don't
know,
know. I think there are things that I need to touch.
well, of course, but I
No,
mean,
I know what you're saying.
already in 50 years, look what you've done. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I still have another 50 years, so I have to figure out eventually
Well,
I
you
need
got
to see
that
the bright.
plane to jump out of.
Yeah.
You got that big project that's going to take up some time,
Mhm. I
and
want to go back to Peru. There are
that's gonna
places.
shift more things for you. So yeah, you got
I
another
feel
50
so.
years worth of stuff.
Yeah, and you too.
Oh
You
yeah.
too.
Oh
And I
yeah.
don't think it's just the death doula. I think there's so many. I feel there's so many things coming for you that where you are right now. I feel that many of us are trying to find modalities that are helping our growth, our spiritual growth, because we feel that massive shift in the world happening. And so there are more people after 2020 looking towards the spiritual beliefs and the spirituality
Yeah.
to try and make sense of the reason that life is the way it is. And they're waking up to a whole fresh new start and like, going into a candy store and go, oh, I want some of that and I want some of this. And I don't, every once in a while I'll hear of a new modality. Um, I'm like, what is that? And then I realize, wow, they just stuck a name to something that's very similar to Reiki, or they just, now there are machines that you can actually hook yourself up to, and there are practitioners that actually can see where your chakras are unaligned or what parts of your body are not connecting to the energy that's where are you blocked energetically. I find that amazing.
Oh yeah, I got this during 2020. A friend of mine turned me on to the Healy. Have you heard of it? It's like this
Hmm.
big. And I bought
Yes,
one and I have since loaned it to my sister, who I don't know if she's even using it, but she was going through cancer treatment. So I said, use this, learn this. That was blowing my mind because it would pick up on issues that your frequency was holding and then help you. Like, I cranked up the frequency. I don't remember what it was because it's been like 4 years now since I used it. And it was like a high I had never experienced
really.
from this little thing. I got to get it back from her because she's doing a lot better now and she doesn't need it. So yeah, I mean, the stuff that's out there is amazing. And I think, yeah, I think now's the time we're just all going to be kind of led to the stuff that we're meant to be doing to
I
assist
agree.
humanity. And I think there's so much that's going to erupt the next couple
Hmm.
years that are going to
Hmm.
be, there's going to be a huge need for people who want to serve humanity and assist them on this journey
I
because
agree. I mean, from a massage to an acupuncturist to, quantum healer to whatever you want. I mean, cranial sacral therapy. I feel
or
that
just
there's,
being kind
or
to someone on the beach.
exactly, or just being kind, even to yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Yeah,
Say kind things to yourself
that's
in the
the most
mirror.
important person to be kind to, first and foremost.
Yeah. Which, for many of us is it's very hard because we put ourselves last. And we should put like the oxygen mask that you have to put on yourself before you give it to somebody else. I think it's very important that we start shifting that. That's the first and only modality at this very moment that we should be focusing on. Because when we feel good about ourselves, that energy passes on to everybody else around us.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
I
Mm.
love you.
And on that beautiful note, I think this is a good time to say adieu, adieu, adieu to our friends out there. And we'll be back next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.